The research into cosmology also brings with it a host of other peculiar avenues of investigation that come with it. For instance, when something is universally accepted as the theory of gravity is allowed to be questioned, this brings along with it the eventual questioning of many tangential theories which are all predicated upon gravity, such as the entire realm of theoretical physics, atomic theory, and of course, the whole quantum paradigm. At the same time, a good portion of this resurgence of amateur cosmological research seems to repeatedly reveal clues pointing to a vague realization that the cosmos, this entire enclosed system in which we live, actually operates under the influence of what we generically refer to as electromagnetic forces to a far greater degree than what mainstream science would imagine. In recent years, we've seen a massive resurgence of interest in the figure of Nikola Tesla, whose life's work was suspiciously destroyed, as the Einsteinian paradigm of relativity and other such edifices of theoretical fantasy were made the mainstay of academia. Free energy, natural harmonics, cymatics. These are topics that have seen a massive rekindling of interest as the fraudulent concepts of gravity and relativity have revealed their shameful nakedness, and a reawakening of zetetic inquiry has begun to sweep across the world, in spite of how much the mainstream institutions of lower learning have endeavored to ridicule and dismiss it. Somewhere in this realm of vibrations and frequencies, pulses and patterns, through a now almost forgotten medium, which for millennia was referred to simply as the ether, perhaps lies the true mechanics of the more mysterious aspects of God's creation, even the higher dimensions of the heavens themselves. But as we increasingly explore these new yet old notions of sonoluminescence and the variety of electromagnetic manifestations, it would seem prudent to stop and ask ourselves if indeed such things are really part of what the Creator intended for us to try and comprehend and conquer, or if in fact this is once again stepping into pools of forbidden knowledge, involving aspects of the creation which we were never given dominion over, and thus, in its own way, is potentially part of the grand deception as well. Another part of the forbidden knowledge that the fallen ones have brought with them from their original estates, circuiting the heavens and illuminating the ether.
saucers from the bottom that look like a plane from the top. Yet, thousands of years ago up until today, there are also, say, people in the Amazon who drink ayahuasca or take peyote and other natural substances, and they also talk about things very similar to aliens and UFOs. And they paint pictures of them, and they show flying saucers and beings getting out of them and interacting with them and giving them advanced knowledge of the plants and other things, of things that will happen and all this. But these are known to be interdimensional creatures, interdimensional phenomenon happening when you interact with these entheogens, these psychedelic plants. And the most powerful psychedelic on Earth is produced naturally in our pineal gland, in our third eyes, and it comes out when we sleep. And so dreams are actually a product of this. And so when people are asleep and then they're abducted by aliens and they have this experience that's so real to them and so unfamiliar, it very well could be an endogenous DMT burst causing these same kind of ayahuasca visions. The ayahuasqueros in Peru are seeing known to be interdimensional beings. But if we've been fed this new propaganda that there's extraterrestrial aliens and physical UFOs, then we start to think that this phenomenon that's been known and talked about for thousands of years, of these star beings, these astral beings, and astral travel that we're able to do, turns into physical space travel and Star Trek type stuff that they're trying to get us to believe in. I mean, people thousands of years ago believed in so-called aliens, star beings, and they say that they traveled to the stars too, like the ancient Mithric cults, the Mithra worship. They had this church called the Mithraeum, and it had tubs all lined up together in a sensory deprivation type environment. And in the Mithraeum, they would all line up, just like in a Christian church where you eat the body and blood of Christ and they give you a cracker and some wine. They would eat the body and blood of Mithra, but it wasn't just a cracker and some wine. It was magic mushrooms and some powerful herbs. And you eat these things, drink these things, lay down in these communal tubs along the water, touching each other, just like in Minority Report. And there was holes in the ceiling above each tub, and they said that their consciousness would communally come out of their bodies, go through the hole in the ceiling, and go to the stars where they would communicate with astral beings. They had their own civilizations. But the difference is that this is all happening where they're here on Earth and their consciousness is going to the stars, not physically creating some kind of technology that floats us up there like NASA says that they're doing, and then meeting physical creatures that you can touch. That's not what they were doing. There's some kind of beings that are non-physical that we have access to like this, but we've lost contact with them. And the reason is because of this, because now we've been fed a fake cosmology and a fake idea of who these astral beings are. And so we're trying to create middle technology to try and reach them, instead of remembering that the natural plant technologies already exist here for us to reach these beings and to interact with them. The ayahuasqueros say that these plants and these beings are what told them about the combinations of plants and stuff to use to access them.
So, interestingly enough, Eric Dubay is actually quite correct in so much of what he's saying here. Yet there's an absolutely crucial detail which he gets completely wrong. And this is the reason why I felt like I had to include this clip, because it's incredibly telling. And it actually provides a perfect segue into this whole broader topic of aliens, entities, dimensions, spiritual realms, hallucinogenic plants and substances, astral projection of the pineal gland or third eye, and so on, all within the context of flat earth and enclosed cosmology, of course. The point that he's getting so horribly and tragically wrong here is one that is actually shared by so many others, and that's why I feel like it just must be addressed, and I'm going to try and do it in as clear and comprehensive manner as I can. Dubay's assertion is that the entire fake NASA heliocentric space alien propaganda agenda is to misdirect humanity away from the spiritual truths known by the ancients and experienced through meditative practices and certain natural substances by inculcating everyone with the false materialistic concept of outer space and the physical planets inhabited by physical extraterrestrials, etc. This argument basically assumes that the reason behind this agenda is just simply in order to control the ignorant masses, and more specifically, to prevent ordinary people like you and I from rediscovering this ancient knowledge and these ancient practices, and to prevent us from rediscovering that connection with these ancient astral beings. Because supposedly, if we do, it will allow humanity to cross a tipping point, or a threshold of spiritual evolution, and then the powers that be would no longer be able to control us like the quote sheeple in our higher states of consciousness. And like I said, Dubay is hardly unique in his profession of this idea, because we see it everywhere, and particularly within the broader truther/conspiracy community. And I will say point blank that I'm convinced that this is hands down one of the most crucial and misunderstood questions when it comes to spirituality in the times which we are now living. And really, it boils down to a couple of pretty basic questions, namely, who are these astral beings? And is contacting these entities really the key to overthrowing the human powermongers of the New World Order? Now, we could spend hours looking at all the various evidence that is germane to answering these questions and getting into things like the Theosophical Society, Aleister Crowley and all of his connections, and Jack Parsons, and all these things that are very much connected to what we are largely understood to be the power structures of the NWO. But let's just cut to the chase. My hope is that in all this work that I've been putting into all these different videos and on this topic and other related topics, is that people just might find new resources and new avenues to investigate for themselves. And, as it's been something that has involved a great deal of time and energy in researching for myself, the net result of all this research has really been the astoundingly simple conclusion that these beings who are being contacted through these various practices, whether it be through the more, quote, natural, shamanic, and typically tribal approaches, or the various routes of Eastern mysticism, or the darker halls of mystery school societies and their multi-generational occultism, is that they are all the same beings. They all preach the same message. It's the message of apotheosis, or man becoming God. The same message of monism, or oneness, the idea that everything is connected, everything is a part of God, and God is in everything. And these astral beings, these interdimensional entities, these spirits, or alleged masters, or whatever else people might want to call them, they are very real, and yes, you can contact them. But the real troubling realization comes in facing the fact that all these same groups of humans who are running the entire globalist cabal, with all the fabricated wars and fake terror attacks, the whole Federal Reserve, central banking Ponzi scheme, all the poisoning of our air, food, and water, all the drugging of our populace, all the sacrificing of our children, all the lies, all the brainwashing, all the turmoil and pain and death, is being directed, ultimately, by these same entities, these same astral beings. And this is where Dubay gets it totally wrong, spinning it all through a flat earth lens in completely the wrong way. Because once you're able to stop and really reflect upon it, you begin to see that the phony Copernican NASA paradigm really isn't meant to push people away from a mystical or Gnostic worldview, but rather to teach a Gnostic and mystical worldview only in a repackaged way. Don't believe me? Just start looking back over the decades of space propaganda in movies and television. Start paying attention to the philosophical messages embedded behind all those sci-fi props like booster rockets and warp drives. My favorite example is still hands down Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey, and I'm sure I don't need to mention to most of you what sort of NWO insider Kubrick was. And that movie is absolutely filled with occult symbolism. And I made a video many months ago showing how even there, the climax of the film blatantly portrays the astronauts surpassing the materialistic concept of space travel and having a spiritual, hyperdimensional experience where he comes face to face with the esoteric powers behind the mysterious monolith. This kind of message is coming through all the mainstream channels, not independent of them. Dubé would have you believe that meditation and hallucinogenic plants is the thing that the mainstream control grid is trying to keep away from you with all their phony Star Trek narratives, when in reality this is precisely what it's all there to promote. It's all about surpassing limitation, about exploring the cosmos, about the humanistic expansion of knowledge, and almost always about contact, about communion, not with God, but with those long-lost space brothers, communion with our ancient alien panspermia seeders, and with the consciousness of the cosmos itself. So, honestly, when we're stepping back and considering all this in the context of flat Earth, the enclosed cosmology with its implications towards the heavens and the heavenly beings who reside there, it really does fit together in an incredible way. Many people within the flat Earth movement are familiar with the Book of Enoch, but a lot of them have really only heard the portions which describe an enclosed world, while they're still quite unaware of all that it has to say about the fallen Watcher Angels, and how these beings came down from the heavens. They had giant hybrid offspring with human women, and taught mankind all kinds of forbidden knowledge, including enchantments and root cuttings, as described in Enoch chapter 8. So, in the end, it honestly makes no difference whether you are engaging in Kundalini yoga, or astral projection, or drinking ayahuasca tea, or taking DMT, or using sensory deprivation techniques, smoking things like peyote or salvia, doing golden Buddha meditation, or using any form of pagan witchcraft or ritualistic magic, or whatever else. It is all designed to put you in contact with the same fallen angelic beings who taught these practices to humanity in the first place, to lead people away from God, away from the true Creator, and towards worshiping themselves and the creation and these fallen beings from the astral realms, who are led by Satan. In closing, I would just like to play this excerpt from an interview with a woman named Carolyn Hamlet, who was herself raised in an Illuminati family. She's a survivor of things like ritualistic abuse, deep spiritual deception through the occult, and in which she worked specifically as a very highly trained practitioner of astral projection, and in the course of that work had countless interactions with these same entities, these astral beings.
I just started off by saying that I definitely don't recommend opening the third eye, and that people don't understand that when one has the Holy Spirit of God in them, that they're actually connected to the very creator of the universe. It's through God's Holy Spirit. So another name for Satan is the prince of the power of air, and that's because that even in the air, the realms around us, it's filled with Satan's demons and entities. Very dangerous. A lot of people have had terrible experiences astral traveling. It's because that realm around us, like the second heaven, is filled with those entities. So when one opens the third eye, they're actually opening themselves to the unprotected realm. And one of the reasons God the Father sent the Word, was Jesus Christ, sent him into the flesh, was to make a way, which is a portal, made a portal to bring God's Spirit here, so that we can have that Holy Spirit in us if we want it. And having that Spirit of God in us is like having, sort of like having a closed phone line from us to God, and from God to us. And I mean, it may not be the best way to describe it, but I think maybe people can picture that. It gives them a mental image. And that it's like kind of like having a sole provider, that God's the provider provider, and the provider of the network is actually Jesus Christ. So opening the third eye is actually connecting oneself to the prince of the power of the air, which is Satan. And at the same time, people that open their third eye are making